when I say what men allow to happen, and yes, I'm saying men again, right? Allow to happen is that
what do women allow to happen?
Yeah, right. If he is dating a woman and he notices that when she's mad at him, she is prone to giving him silent treatments, and he does not do something about that, then he allows that behavior in their relationship, right? He just does. He's like, you know what? Every time she gives him a silent treatment, how does he react to that silent treatment? Do you understand what I'm saying? And to your point about what you're saying about, well, I just want to get some. Okay, so you're saying you're not going to set a boundary and with her for giving you that silent treatment, because if you do, then at the end of the day, you're not going to get some. Then what exactly is your ask? Exactly. You're saying you're choosing this over that, right? So if you're saying you're choosing this over that, why are you asking me, but what about the women? You have made your decision. You've decided that you prefer, you understand what I'm saying? You're weighing your options and you're saying, well, yeah, I don't like the way that silent treatment makes me feel, but I'd rather get some anyways, right? Yeah. Because even something that we've spoken about before, when you asked me, a while ago, like, why don't women ever get to the doghouse? And I said, because men never put them there. Women put men in the doghouse. So a man having an expectation that women put men in the doghouse and women should also put themselves in the doghouse is absurd. You go to the doghouse because she put you there. So if you have an expectation that women should go to the doghouse sometimes too, that means you are supposed to put her there. But if you're choosing not to put her there because at the end of the day I want to get something, what is your ask? What are you asking for?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Couples Development Podcast. I am your co-host, Coach Clark, and I am here with my wife,
Coach Mel, and we are a husband and wife team of relationship coaches. So what do you want to talk about today, husband?
All right, let's go after, we've been getting a lot of comments over a video we uploaded recently.
Yes.
Let's go after, why couples fight.
Okay.
Right? And because that's typically the main concern people have. Typically people don't get with people they're not attracted to, or they don't stay with people they don't like. It's and it eventually gets to a point where, heads start butting. So
I think we should play the clip here so that people can see which clip it had that had so many men very angry with me. And then we can talk about it a little bit more.
Men were very angry with you.
Yes. A lot of men don't understand that their passivity and their silence is actually more toxic to the health of the relationship than her emotional nagging and complaining, because her emotional nagging and complaining is letting her partner know, hey, we're having a problem here, or I'm having an issue here. When he's passive and doesn't speak up, he's just breeding a lot of like what I call relationship poison, and he's letting it fester in that relationship, which is why, like you were saying, a lot of times when the woman is like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore, he could be confused because it's like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, you allowed toxicity to breed in the core of your marriage. That's what happened.
Because number one reason people, I'm assuming, number one reason people fight is misunderstandings, miscommunications, and so on and so forth. So if we're not communicating well, then we're not going to understand each other. If we don't understand each other, there's a higher chance we see each other as a threat or an enemy, and then we're going to, butt heads per se, right? So first, I'd like to start with power struggles and power dynamics in relationships. Right? And they can come in many different ways. One of the ways I will start with power dynamics, I'll start from the men's side, right? Women, especially Black women, are graduating at clearly way higher numbers than Black men are. Now, I know Black men are being like, oh, they get a degree in basket weaving, whatever the hell that is. Or they get a degree in things that don't matter. It's not necessarily true. As more and more women seek out careers and become college educated, they're earning more and more and more. And what's happening is that they're leaving some of the men behind in terms of salary. And one thing that, you know, men used to hold over women's head is I pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So what's happening now is, you know, more women are paying their own bills. Men are even asking women to, you know, split the date or split the check, or women are saying, no, I'll pay for myself because I don't want you to think, you know, just because I owe you anything, yeah. Right? So all that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, again, the men are not giving any instructions to change other than just kind of like, do I just sit here and accept all this, right? And so just to give you a scenario where power dynamics come into play, married couple or boyfriend and girlfriend, she's a psychologist, therapist, he's in IT or something, I don't know, right? She has a practice, she makes 120, 130 a year. He's you know, let's say he's college educated as well. He makes 75, 80 a year. Still good money, right? What I hear a lot of men say is the attitude that women who make, well, we're talking about women in our community, men in our community. The attitude that they comes with the territory of them making more can make them feel super emasculated. Because we already have a weak ego as it is, or I want to say weak ego. We already have a sensitive ego, I should say, as it is, that we don't want bruised in any way. And so oftentimes when it comes to paying bills and taking care of the household and everything else, men still, from the most part, again, not all, want to be considered the heads of household. And even that that needs to be explained what that really means. It doesn't mean I control things. It means, you know, for me, my definition, at least, it means, you know, when the doorbell rings, I answer it, because what if it's, you know, some crazy thing? I want to be the first line of defense, right? And so on and so forth. This is one of the examples. But so a lot of men want to be the heads of household, and a lot of women are kind of like, what makes you that? Because I make more money than you. And another thing too, even when women stayed home back in the day, or women made less than their husbands, he would bring home the bacon, and, you know, let's say she would cook it. What I mean by that is that he would make the money, and oftentimes she would do the budget. She would, you know, here's what we're going to do with groceries, here's what we're going to do, and the men would be okay with that, right? I think you have a stat for it, I'm not sure, but the other way around. One second, with the other way around, when women start earning more, they still expect to be the ones doing the budget and deciding, you know, what we can or can't, you know, purchase. How it's viewed, like, for example, if a woman decides to do the budget where the guy's like, hey, babe, I want to buy this. Is this good? Right? People wouldn't see an issue with that as much. The other way around, a woman asking her husband, hey, I want to go buy these shoes, is okay. It's like she's asking for permission. He's controlling. It's a certain thing about that. Yeah, go ahead.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand.
In terms of power dynamics, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Yeah. There are ways that, for example, things that women can say and do in a relationship that makes sense. But if he does it, he's controlling, it's misogynistic, it's narcissistic, it's all this statistic words, right? And so, you know, back to what I was saying, where the woman starts to make more money, and, you know, she starts to, you know, decide how the money should be spent. That's another way, you know, that can make a man, you know, indirectly feel emasculated, which can begin, you know, resentment, which can lead to, you know, because of the power dynamics. And so, I would just, you know, that's just one of the ways. I was telling you what I hear from men in terms of their complaints regarding power dynamics.
Yeah, I think that in terms of women expecting that if she makes more, she also controls the money. I agree with you on that. I do also agree with you that it's not the same way, the other way around. When the man makes the money, he generally doesn't have this expectation that he controls the money. It tends to be more so like a partnership type of thing. So I do agree with you on that. I will say this. The thing with power dynamics is that the way that power dynamics works is I'm going to get you to bend before I bend. And the reason why that's problematic is because being attached to someone means that when I bend, you bend too. So we both do this back and forth between, us bending a little. Both people are bending. But what happens with couples after a while, and after a while, it's not a long time. It could be after 3 months, so I don't want it to sound like we're talking about years here. They start to do this thing where it's like, why am I always bending? Why, like, they start to take tally of how often, how often you bend, how often I bend. And that becomes really, it creates struggles in that relationship. But if couples could understand that your partner is not your enemy, and that back and forth bending between, each partner is the way to maintain attachment, then they could understand a little bit more why having that power struggle in their relationship is actually quite much more toxic than they might think it is.
Yeah. I definitely would agree. So on the other end, the power dynamics where, for example, we just spoke about it, where the men, what women would complain about, what do you mostly hear?
About power dynamics?
In terms of power dynamics and like how women,
That's a good question. From women,
because I would think how I dress and what else, who I'm able to talk to, things that women, would say are controlling.
Yeah. So okay. So let me go back a little bit here. So that clip that had, so many men very angry with me.
Yes.
But basically what I was saying in that clip is that men should speak up in their relationships, because society has taught them to suppress their feelings and not to ask for their needs met, not to ask for their feelings to be validated. But at the same time, I can understand why many men interpreted it in the manner that they did. I can't say they were wrong for that, because when you listen to it back, it can sound different to different people.
Yeah, dismissive.
So it's But
I know.
Yeah. Okay. So, but
to men, it just again, this is part of the power dynamics.
Yes, that's why it was. Yeah.
To men, it just comes across as, well, I have to do this. Okay, this bothers me that she does that. Well, she only does that because you do this. So it's always my fault when she's doing something wrong. Where's her accountability if I have to take accountability? Again, power dynamics.
Right. Yeah. The bending. It's the refusal to do that. When you bend, I bend. Yeah. And that when you bend, I bend is how we maintain attachment to our partners. So both people are supposed to be doing that, not just one person. Yeah. What was I saying again? Okay, so in the video, so I'm saying I can understand why a lot of men were angry at the clip, saying, oh, it's always men's fault, and I got a lot of that. And that's not what I was saying at all. But again, I do understand why they interpret it that way, because it can come across that way. Yeah. But what it really is that there are different ways to feel like we are in control in our relationship. So in reference to the power dynamics, and one of the ways for us to feel like we are in control in our relationship is to remain passive. So you're not going to get me to do anything. You're not going to get me to talk if I don't want to. You're not going to get me to go there if I don't want to. You're not going to get me to sit this way if I don't want to. So his passivity,
which is passive aggressive.
There's a difference between being passive and passive aggressive. But we can roll with that. We can call it passive aggressive. It's fine.
Why I'm asking, by the way, is because how it typically, shows up when you're seeing someone having power is by them being active at something, not passive. Right.
Yeah.
And so passive, like, for example, when a woman gives a man silent, we can get into that after. Yeah. When a woman gives a man silent treatment, it's a passive behavior, but it's also a power.
Yeah, it's a thing to maintain control, to feel like I'm in control of the situation. It's you're going to bend, I'm not going to bend, you're going to bend. That's what couples start to do with each other in that power struggle. So that man remaining passive is his way of maintaining control. Now, he may not be consciously aware of it, but that's really what he's doing. He's trying to maintain control of the situation in his own way. You understand what I'm saying?
Is it kind of like a punishment towards her or something?
It could be a punishment. It could be a punishment. It could be maintaining control. It's all of that. So when I say that remaining passive is more toxic to the relationship, it is more toxic to the relationship. It's like when we think about the 4 horsemen that lead to divorce, they're contempt, stonewalling, which is what passivity is. I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to give you anything. You're not going to get anything out of me. Contempt, stonewalling, defensiveness, and criticism. Those are the 4 horsemen that lead to divorce. So if a man is consistently stonewalling his wife, he's walking himself into a divorce. So he, and what a lot of the men were saying was that, well, it's our way to maintain peace. But it's like, sir, how's that working for you? Does it only temporarily keep the peace? It probably only temporarily keeps the peace. And you're going to try that same tactic again. You're going to get temporary peace. And you're going to try that same tactic again. You're going to get temporary peace versus going straight to the root of the problem. What I feel like a lot of men are avoiding doing is going to the root cause and solving the root cause. They just keep putting Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid. And it's not solving the true problems in their relationship. It's just not.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, with that said, the other end, like you said, like with them being passive, like when she starts up and starts caving into him, he kind of shuts down, and that's the passive part. So when women when women give silent treatment, what do you think the purpose is there?
To manipulate him to bend. That's the purpose of a silent treatment, whether it's a parent to a child or husband to wife, boyfriend to girlfriend, friend to friend. The whole point of a silent treatment is you're going to bend before I do. And it's manipulation. That's what it is.
Is that a learned behavior?
I would assume so. Yeah. I would assume it's a learned behavior. Yeah.
Something like parents said to their kids type of thing?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so what ends up happening is, let's say in the beginning of a relationship, right? And here the men are going to get mad at me again when I say this. I'm going to say he allowed something because he did. It is what it is, right? So there's something fascinating about me talking about men taking their power back and them feeling like I'm trying to disempower them. There's something so fascinating about that to me. But let me go back to what I was saying.
By telling them to speak up.
By telling them to speak up. Yeah. They feel like that is disempowering them. That they feel like that's them being blamed for something. I'm saying you have the agency to take control over your own outcomes. That's what I'm saying. You have the power to do something about the results you get in your relationship. That's what I'm saying. So if you keep telling me to go talk to the women, sir, then you're saying she should be the dominant in this situation. She should take control over the situation. So what exactly are you asking for? But anyways, let me go.
They're asking the women to bend the knee.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so gentlemen, right? We claim that we want to be leaders, right? We want to be the heads and we want to be leaders and we want women to follow our lead. With great power comes great responsibility. It's if we're, again, I'm not trying to say that's how all men think, but I've been in many a barbershop and I hear how, men talk sometimes is, women are weaker, women are this, women are that, right? Okay, if we're the stronger ones and we're the more logical ones and we're the more analytical ones and, we use more reason and this, that, and the other, all right, cool. So wouldn't it make sense for us to lead by example? And now it's like, well, what about her? Well, great question. Typically, leaders don't ask, what about them? What leaders do is they show, they assess the situation and they address it. And if it's not, if the person who they are attempting to lead doesn't comply or doesn't cooperate, like we like to say, they move on. But what happens is that, she's thick though, right? And so they, if they really want to admit it and they really want to be honest with themselves, it's better to have a warm body that you can consistently mess around with, as opposed to not. And so when they say the reason why they keep the peace is so that they can get a peace, in my opinion. But go ahead.
No, well, okay, so I'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay. So like I was saying, when I say what men allow to happen, and yes, I'm saying men again, right? Allow to happen is that.
What do women allow to happen?
Yeah, right. If he is dating a woman and he notices that when she's mad at him, she is prone to giving him silent treatments and he does not do something about that, then he allows that behavior in their relationship, right? Yep. He just does. He's like, you know what? Every time she gives him a silent treatment, how does he react to that silent treatment? Do you understand what I'm saying? And to your point about what you were saying about, well, I just want to get some. Okay. So you're saying you're not going to set a boundary and with her for giving you that silent treatment, because if you do, then at the end of the day, you're not going to get some. Then what exactly is your ask? Exactly. You're saying you're choosing this over that, right? So if you're saying you're choosing this over that, why are you asking me, but what about the women? You have made your decision. You've decided that you prefer You understand what I'm saying? You're weighing your options and you're saying, well, yeah, I don't like the way that silent treatment makes me feel, but I'd rather get some anyways, right?
Yeah.
Because even something that we've spoken about before, when you asked me, a while ago, like, why don't women ever get to the doghouse? And I said, because men never put them there. Women put men in the doghouse. So a man having an expectation that women put men in the doghouse and women should also put themselves in the doghouse is absurd. You go to the doghouse because she put you there. So if you have an expectation that women should go to the doghouse sometimes too, that means you are supposed to put her there. But if you're choosing not to put her there because at the end of the day, I want to get something, what is your ask? What are you asking for exactly?
Explain to me the process of a man putting a woman in a doghouse.
Tell me what she did first. Okay. Give me an example of something that she did. What did she do that would be doghouse worthy?
So, good question. Okay. So, for example, what you said, right? Men want to be respected. Men want to be seen as leaders.
Yeah.
Yet there's a behavior she's doing that you're accepting.
Okay.
And you're not addressing with her.
Yeah.
Which is not, and you not addressing it is not going to make her respect you. Is not going to make her stop. She's going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You give somebody a foot, they'll take it one step beyond. Right. So, so for example, with I forgot the damn acronym, but how it would work, right? Babe, we need to talk. Observation. I've noticed that whenever we're having a discussion where we're not on the same page and it gets a little heated, you shut down and you give me the silent treatment. Observation. Then attach that is feeling. When you give me silent treatment, it makes you feel ignored, insignificant, and dismissed. And then afterwards, ask. So moving forward, anytime you decide to give me the silent treatment or shut down, I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Moving forward. And then that's it. And then basically, do you understand? Now, she can take that as, who you're talking to or whatever. This, that,
you can't ever control somebody else's responses or their reactions or their interpretations. We just don't have the power to do that.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because
we don't have the power to do that.
So men, right? My mind.
Yeah.
Right? When I used to game a lot, play 2K a lot, right? If I build this player a certain way, this should happen. If I do a certain command, this should happen.
Yeah.
Right? If I practiced enough, blah, 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 I will get better at shooting a basketball.
Yeah.
That's how men are.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I think. I'm just going to say all men from my understanding, right? We're creatures of habits, right? So, okay, some man just heard what I just said. He's going to write that down. He's going to go and do that.
And he's probably going to get cursed out.
And it's not going to work. He's going to be like, who the hell are you talking to? She's going to twist her neck.
Yes.
He's going to whatever.
Yes.
And he's going to fold and go be passive and be quiet.
Yes.
What happens is, as they say, he has to stand on business. After he says that, and she whether she shuts down or goes up,
he cannot let her manipulate him.
Correct.
For setting a boundary, he cannot.
Correct.
And the thing is, the truth is that the reason why humans in general, male, female, anyone, we try to not set boundaries is because we're afraid of the consequences of setting a boundary.
Correct.
So we allow people to harm us because we're afraid of what we might lose. So it's like, even with parents, we don't want to set boundaries with parents because, I'm going to hurt my mother's feelings. I don't want to set boundaries with my friend because they might not be my friend anymore. I don't want to, set boundaries with my wife because she might not bang me at the end of the night. So we are choosing to not, protect ourselves because we're afraid of losing something. And the person on the other end of that interaction is aware of that. They're not stupid. So they're aware of that, right? So if you allow someone to manipulate you consistently because they feel like they hold something over your head that you are saying you cannot live without, that's a decision that you're making for yourself, right? But I also want to say here that anytime, so when you say about that man who tries the technique to be able to say, hey, when you give me silent treatments, it makes me feel this. The next time, this will be the consequence of that, whatever. And then she'll probably get mad at him, and he might get a silent treatment from that, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that I want everyone to understand is that anytime we institute a new behavior in our relationship, our partner at first is not going to like it. They're gonna be they might be resistant. They may not like it. They may not trust it. You know, it can cause anxiety in your partner. It can cause, oh my God, what's going on? Are we breaking up? All those, but that's normal, right? So I want every man watching this to understand that once he starts setting boundaries in his relationship with his partner, that it might get a little bit worse before it gets good, but he has to understand that when he sets a boundary, that might make her anxious.
Yes.
So after he sets that boundary, when he's manipulating, he says, when you give me silent treatment next time, I'm going to walk out. He needs to also say the amount of time so that she's not just left hanging and just having anxiety build up inside of her, because that would also be manipulative. So he needs to say directly, I'm going to leave for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then we can circle back to this conversation. But
he's not leaving her hanging.
So that he's not leaving her hanging and just letting that anxiety build up inside of her, because then now they're just playing a battle of who's going to out manipulate who, right?
Which is the power dynamics.
Yes. But if he straight up says, you know, I'm going to leave for 3 hours, the first time she might not like it, but when he comes back and he says, are you ready to talk now? And she gives him another silent treatment, does it again. I understand the dilemma that men are in. Trust me. I understand the dilemma they're in, because women sometimes will hold sex over them.
Of course.
Which is also another manipulation, right? So sometimes they will do that, but the man allows it. And people don't like to hear that, but we allow people to treat us the way that they do. Because when we don't set a boundary, we are allowing it, is what I'm saying.
That you're going to see in the comments.
Oh, God.
Oh, she's holding sex for me? We allow it? Oh, okay. I will allow myself to get sex.
And listen, let me tell you something. And that for me is totally fine as well. But it's that man that has to decide for himself what he wants, what's worth it. Like, it is what it is, you know. He has to decide, you know. If he decides I'm gonna go get it somewhere else, okay, then let's just see what the consequences of that are as well. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's because what's sad about that is, if she holds sex over my head, I'm gonna go get it somewhere else, is cowardly, because he's stopping himself from learning how to resolve conflicts in his relationship. He's running away from learning how to set boundaries, right? Because he's like, you know what? You won't give it to me. It's weak and it's cowardly. I'm gonna just go do this instead of learning how to set boundaries and going through that painful process of learning how to do so in my relationship. It's cowardly. It just is.
And most won't understand that because they're not accustomed to it. But like you said, once that new behavior comes in, she's going to be like, it's going to be like, what is this? First, she's going to react.
Yes.
Because, and where that comes from, we're going to segue into traumas in a second. But because how many of our parents understood what gentle parenting was? Or how many of our parents understood what, especially in the Black community, allowed us to express our emotions and you know, vent and say how we feel and all this other stuff, right? Again, hey, if you were blessed with those parents, God bless you.
Right.
But, right. So with that said, the reaction there of someone being assertive, not aggressive, right? Men don't yell it. So I noticed that. No, I'm calm, right? I noticed this. It made me feel this. And then the ask. Moving forward, I would like ...
Yeah, and he needs to use a feeling word. He needs to say, it makes me feel disrespected. It makes me feel unloved. Whatever that word, that feeling may be for him. And over time, he's going to be able to gauge, wait, I guess she doesn't care about how I feel because she's still giving me these silent treatments, right? So
because what's going to happen is that, you know, tell no girl, you know, she's hurting my feelings, and then some women will tell you, some women who aren't therapized, some women, I made up that word, some women who aren't as well read or understanding, you know, emotional behavior and everything, they're accustomed to certain mentalities. They will call you weak. They will call you soft. They will say, you talking about feelings, you're soft. They will
and that
say
man needs to understand that that has nothing to do with him.
Correct.
And he's not responsible for her reactions and the things that she says. He's just not.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you want, again, this is way easier said than done because a lot of men are struggling out there. They say there's no good women. They can't find anybody. So being that they're in a relationship with someone they're attracted to, it's like, okay, I'm good enough. And a lot of times that's where men stop. Main reason is because we aren't taught anything else. We're taught, ooh, ass, or ooh, thick, ooh, cute, whatever. And that's it. And that's in, as long as she doesn't stink or whatever it is, and she can speak English,
we're good.
We're good, right? And no, right? So doing that will definitely gain respect.
But that's the irony. Sorry, honey, but that's that. But sorry, but that's the irony of it. Is that the irony of that is that when he starts to set boundaries, she starts to trust him more. That's just the way that boundaries work. When people set boundaries and advocate for themselves, we begin to trust them more. We begin to respect them more.
Because there's less.
And we begin to desire them more because, ooh, I like this thing. You know, like it creates whatever. I mean,
I hear that. Yeah. And because it's like you often hear women saying, "Oh, I like a guy that could put me in my place." They don't mean control, hit, whatever.
No. Or yell.
Or yell. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So meaning you don't put my box on a pedestal. And that's like you're only your worth as a man. And the thing is, in our community, oftentimes as our own fault, right? Taking accountability, we put that on the pedestal. Like that's basically the ultimate goal. Other than money, why do we want money? So we can get more.
Yeah.
It's like everything is linked down to that. Right. So what's going to happen is once you once you're that assertive and you use the method where you make an observation, you don't complain, man, every time you do this, man. No, don't do that. Because again, you're kind of going into women are going to hate me for saying this. You know how men say female, whatever, like emotional.
Female tendencies.
Female tendencies, right? Don't do that. Just very simple. Like, hey, here's what I observed. This is what it's making me feel. And when you do it again, I need it to stop. And if and when you do it again, this is what I'm going to do. Right. And that's it. And then she could say, now she's going to start yelling, screaming, and da-da-da. It's okay. It's a normal reaction because, that's her normal thing.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're teaching her how to respect you and also teaching yourself how to respect yourself.
Yeah. You're respecting yourself.
And you're respecting yourself.
Yeah.
And that's,
like one of the things that I heard a lot in that video clip that had men like really big mad at me was that they were saying that, oh, so what are men supposed to do? We're supposed to complain back. I said, yes, in a direct, clear, and uncritical manner. Yes.
But
because
I don't get any.
Okay. Right. But do you understand what I'm saying? Because
anyway, so
yeah.
Segueing as to what would make her feel anxious, we're gonna, segue out of power dynamics where they can come from trauma. And trauma as in childhood trauma, what you observed growing up.
Yeah.
Just a small personal story. I grew up in an environment where everyone fought and, everyone yelled. There was no talking. It was just everybody yelled. That was Wednesday, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, right? And from my understanding, you grew up in an environment where people spoke, but there were no arguments, there were no yelling, there were no you had to look really, really hard to find any sort of resemblance of feeling anywhere.
Yeah,
right?
We grew up very differently. Like for my family, it was much more silent. Like you were saying, there wasn't a lot of fighting. Like growing up, I remember seeing one argument, literally one. But that was pretty much it. And when I say one argument, it's about kids. Like the kids would fight, whatever. But like with the adults, I only saw one.
Any physical?
No, other than kids.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. I don't think out of all my uncles and aunts that I remember, I don't think I've remember them not at one point or another being in a physical altercation.
Yeah.
So let alone the yelling and arguing and everything.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was normal. And so, these are siblings. Again, I didn't grow up with a 2-parent household, so I never really saw or observed how a husband and wife interact, right? I honestly never really saw my mother in a relationship ever, right?
Yeah.
And so, with that said, these people love each other. These are men.
Yeah.
These are women. This is love.
Yeah. So you not only saw it as normal, you saw it as loving.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you this is your brother and you're yelling at him, well, you're doing that because you love him.
Yeah. Because you care.
Because you care.
Yeah.
Because person I don't care about, they said, hey, dummy, or whatever.
Yeah.
Now you say that to me like, oh, You know, so it's very different.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how that can show up. And on the other end, to someone who grew up in a family, like you said, you did, like where there was none of that. If someone raises their voice, I remember when you first, you know, came over, you heard yelling.
My gosh, it was intense.
Yeah.
It was intense.
Yeah.
Like, because it was my first experience of seeing that outside of like TV or movies, but it was my first experience experiencing that in person.
Yeah.
And so for me, I didn't see fighting as loving. Not only that, I saw fighting as unloving.
Yeah.
And I want to tell everyone watching that what happens a lot is we tend to say things like someone is too angry, someone is too emotional, someone is too cold, someone is too whatever. But what we're really doing is we're just seeing that too from our frame of reference. A lot of people don't recognize that. So we tend to see our too much of something as a fact. He's too sensitive, and we're not recognizing that too is coming from our frame of reference for what's normal sensitivity.
For the men you saw in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how that, and the interesting thing about bringing that into traumas is, if the majority of my childhood, I remember being yelled at, or that's how communication was. What am I going to do in our relationship?
Yeah.
I used to yell out in our relationship.
Yeah.
And not only that, interestingly enough, typically it's the men that are the ones who shut down and are quiet and they want to isolate and go away and, and avoid. And typically it's the women that are anxious and they want to talk and they, and so on and so forth. So in our dynamic, it was very opposite.
And that's what was ironic about all these men coming for me because they didn't, and there's no way for them to know that because the clip didn't say that. So I'm not going to put that on them. That would be wrong of me to do that. But as I'm reading their comments, what was interesting is that they didn't even recognize that a huge part of that was me describing myself, in terms of how I would shut down, because I didn't know how to handle really intense emotional situations in our relationship. So when I say that it's how toxic it is to the health of a relationship, because I'm a passive in recovery. So you understand what I'm saying? So I understand where they're coming from and I feel for them because in those moments when you would get really intensely, like the emotional temperature was really high, my system was going through it. Even though you're not getting any feedback, you're not getting anything in return, my system is going through it. So I understand those men because their system is still going through, even though they're not showing it on the outside, even though they're not reacting, even though they're not matching her emotional energy, that physiologically he's still going through it quite a bit. So there was one guy that said he told me to retitle he told me to retitle the video "How to Lose Your Soul," and I was like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to talk to him. I didn't reply to it because I was just like, oh my gosh, because
you should post it. Like the comment there,
because what's interesting is that when I read it, I understood where he was coming from. But a lot of men don't understand that even though he's not emotionally reacting or responding is a better term, emotionally responding so that she can see what he's feeling, his body physiologically is still going through a lot. As a matter of fact, it's going through a lot more than hers because she's releasing that energy and he's holding that energy in. So it's actually not only toxic to his relationship, it's toxic to his health as well. Now I'm not telling him to go and just start screaming and yelling and whatever. No, he has to learn how to communicate effectively, but it's just not healthy for him to just keep all that in, like they like to tell men, just keep it in, hold it in, handle it. It's just not healthy.
And when my best friend posted a picture in our chat room where it's showing a father with like 4 arrows in his back and he's bleeding and he's squatting down and keeping a happy face and talking to his daughter. And a lot of times, that's kind of like what we think we're supposed to be, but all that does is all it just does is builds up resentment.
Not only that,
and then eventually you're going to explode. And then all of a sudden you explode and now you're breaking something, you're punching a wall. It's kind of like why a lot of guys like, just go to the gym and work out. Men know they need to release it. Yeah. Directly, indirectly.
They just don't want to learn how to release it in a different way. It's just, it takes.
I don't want to say they don't want to learn. What I'm going to say is that this is how they're conditioned. I understand that. So it is. I don't think it's they don't want to learn.
No, when I say they don't want to learn, it's because of how much pushback we get when we talk about learning it.
You got it.
That's what I'm referencing. But as far as the meme you're talking about, with the dad with all the arrows in his back and he's smiling and what people don't understand, is that when you show your child, whether you're raising a girl or a boy, that you can handle everything, you're teaching them to never ask for support when they get older. You're teaching them that asking for help is a weakness.
Yes.
You're teaching them that if they can't handle everything, something is wrong with them. Yes. So it's actually not healthy for a parent to always put on a happy face because their child is now going to think that that's what being strong is. It means never needing help, never needing support. It's just not a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. And so going back to, the traumas and everything. So how, like I said, like we were saying, how that can show up in a future relationship is, like, for example, again, I'll admit it, I can be called weak that's fine. I can be called weak for this and that's fine. So what happened is, we'd get into it and me, it's like you approach the situation and you solve it then, and you don't go away from it until it's solved, right? No matter how loud, no matter how much yelling, no matter how much whatever, you stay in it, right? And the whole don't go to bed angry thing, right?
Which was also bad advice, and since then, therapists, psychologists have taken that back. They're like, don't do that.
Horrendous advice.
And I've been saying it from the beginning.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's not good advice because the whole don't go to bed angry only works for couples who already have good conflict resolution skills.
Yes.
The don't go to bed angry does not work for two people that are triggered and their amygdala is completely hijacked. It just doesn't work. They're gonna cause more.
The amygdala hijack for those who don't know.
I can just link the video because we have a video on it. But it basically means that when you get triggered, you're no longer thinking straight. That's basically what it means.
So you can't, in other words, you can't
solve.
Right. You can't be logical and emotional at the same time.
You can't problem solve. There's no way. But I'll link the video that explains it. So the thing is that you see how you were saying that you were like, we're going to solve it right now. What's interesting about that is I always view that as refusing to solve. And because we were talking about feelings and not the solution to the actual problem. So for you, it was, we're going to talk this out and we're going to solve this, but you're talking about solving for you meant I'm no longer going to feel this way. When this is solved, it means I will no longer feel this way.
I release.
For me, problem solving meant we solved this issue, so we're never going to have this issue again. It was like much more of a practical how we're type of thing. And what's interesting about that is that in one of my classes, it was a therapist. He was showing about how he worked with one particular couple that was similar to our dynamic. And the man was basically saying, I don't want to talk about feelings. I just want to solve the problem. Because his wife was saying, how come you don't come and hug me and hold me and, talk to me when I'm feeling emotional, And the guy was like, because I just want to solve the problem. I love you and I want to solve the problem and you don't want to solve the problem. And the therapist basically told the husband that, no, she does want to solve the problem. She's solving the problem differently than the way that you would solve the problem. So it's just really interesting because we fell into that for a really long time. Of where I'm just like, why can't we just solve this? Why can't we just talk about the details? Why do we have to? I don't even know this thing that you're doing. I don't even know what it is. So
which again, so our upbringing, what we observed. Allows, basically created how we react and show up.
And people bring that stuff into their relationships.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there are these two terms called the maximizer and minimizer. If you want to understand a different way, think of like the turtle in a hailstorm. A hailstorm is like, think of like a really bad thunderstorm and it's hail and it's really, really bad. And think of a turtle, it goes into its shell, protects itself, it's very slow and calm and so on and so forth, right? And by the way, there's both on either end are two extremes, not good.
And they're both emotionally immature reactions to conflict. Yes, 100%.
Right. If you're 100% logical and anytime there are feelings involved, it's not correct. You're going to be technically correct because you're trying to solve it, but ignoring the feelings that are involved makes you not human, and we are human for a reason. If you're crazy, all emotional, and you're not focused on solving the problem, that's another fault of yours. So again, it's basically how we were. There was a lot. It's like you were on one end, and I was on the other end, and, learning how to kind of like get closer to the middle.
Yeah.
And understanding, hey, feelings are important.
Mm-hmm.
Let's speak to them. But then after we speak through them, let's solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody gets what they want. And that's kind of like, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a power struggle or power dynamics, but balancing power.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'll also link that video too, because we did a video that explained the minimizer maximizer dynamic. But I will also say that part of it is not each partner getting what they want. Part of it is each partner's anxiety being calmed.
Soothe,
That's to
and
soothe
giving
each
each other
partner's.
what you need.
It's about learning how to soothe your partner's anxieties. That's really what it is. So in that minimizer maximizer dynamic, what happens is typically about 80%, I think, typically the women fall in the maximizer,
hailstorm.
In the hailstorm box, which basically means she's very emotionally reactive. When something happens, it's very emotional, and she wants to talk about it from an emotional space and all of that.
She might cry.
She might cry. She might yell. She can get very, she might cry, get very emotional. And on the other end of that, the minimizer, sometimes called the turtle, it's usually the defense mechanism that men tend to take on. Either men or women can take it. It's just statistically speaking, women tend to be the hailstorm or the maximizer, and the men tend to be the minimizer or the turtle. But what's really happening is that when she gets emotional, and this is why when men think that the shutting down is helpful, it just really isn't. When she gets emotional, let's say she's at an emotional level 6, and he shuts down, right? The more he shuts down, the more emotional she's going to get. So him shutting down, she's at a 6. Now she's going to get to an 8. He's going to shut down even more. Then she's going to get to a 10. You understand what I'm saying? It's not helpful to shut down. The more he shuts down, the more emotional she gets. The more emotional she gets, the more he shuts down.
It's kind of like he has a shutdown from 0 to 10. She has a emote per se 0 to 10.
0 to 10.
And so it creates a horrible vicious cycle.
Cycle. It doesn't work. And both reactions are emotionally immature. It's basically both partners are emotionally dysregulated. One tries to completely shut down so that they don't, because they feel like they're being overwhelmed or engulfed by so much emotion, they don't know what to do with it. And the other one also doesn't know what to do with it, but the other one wants it to stop, but they're just going to project it outward. That's really what happens.
And the sad part is that, again, I like to use, I love my sports. So the sad part is kind of like, for example, my best friend and I, we love the same team, the Miami Heat, right? Go Heat, right? And that's what 90% of our arguments are over that. Why? He thinks there's a certain way, things that they have to do in order to get to a goal of winning a championship. And I think a different way. We both want the exact same thing. And so if couples why do I use that analogy? If, fellas with your girl, or women with your fellas and everything, right? If you actually sit and think, is this person my enemy? Does this person have something against me? Does this person not like me? If the answers are yes, why are you with them? That's another story, right? But I hope the answers are no to that. So once you understand that, put that to the side and ask, okay, what's the issue here? I don't know, the dishes in the sink, or he doesn't call when he comes home, or she, I don't know, clogged the shower floor, whatever the hell it is, right? End of the day, you both don't hate each other.
I just went way back to you pulling my blobs of hair out of the drain in the shower. Sorry, babe.
Yeah.
Woosah.
Yeah, right? So again, it's like, does she want to clog the drain? No. Do you tell her, hey, use this little thing to... Yes, but is she going to remember it? No. But
sometimes.
Okay.
Not always.
Yes, right?
Sometimes.
Right? Women don't take accountability, right? So again, it's at the end of the day, she is not purposely, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to clog this just so I can show him. No, I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to leave this toilet seat up because I want her booty to get, dirt. Like, no, it's where, people just do their thing. People are living. So what happens is people get into their, dispute, and then 80% women are gonna right, and they're gonna, and the guy's kind of like, oh, here we go. Oh, and then men are going to say things like, you're being too sensitive. You know, she says a 6. It's not that serious.
You're overreacting.
You're overreacting. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. You always make a big deal out of everything. Dismissing, right? So then it's like, well, her feelings are facts because she feels them.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean
what she's saying is
a fact. But what she is feeling is a fact.
Because it exists. It's true. So it's a fact. Yeah.
Right. So if she is feeling it, you telling her stop being sensitive is not going to stop her from feeling it.
Yeah.
What starts now, fellas, I'll tell you this. If she stops telling you about her feelings, just
when women go quiet, that's when there's a problem.
She already has. She's yeah. If she's not seeing someone else already, she already has someone in mind. She already have her, I would say, escape plan, whatever it is. Yeah. If she stops talking, and she's a talker, and she stops talking, not good, not good at all, right? So it's not, you're not getting peace, right? You'll be hearing peace very soon, right? So with that said, so again, you telling her, you know, this is, you know, you're doing too much, you're being too sensitive, whatever it is. How many times has she said, I am? Oh my God, I didn't know I was being too sensitive.
No, babe.
Thank you so much. You know what? I am doing a lot, right? I am being sensitive. You know what? My bad. You want to like go? You want to? Never. So don't do that anymore, maybe, or insanity, unless you like it, whatever, right? So she is going to do that. Now, if you, who wants to be the leader, I'm assuming, if you see her doing that, that's your opportunity to take a lead. She's doing that. If you're okay with it and she's not crossing your boundary, sit, let her vent, right? That's how she gets, but listen to her actively listen to her, right? And when she's done, use the love technique. You listen, you understand, you validate. It doesn't mean you agree, but I heard what you said. If I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying da-da-da-da-da. You know what? You feeling that way makes sense. Now, and keep it there. That doesn't mean you agree with her, right?
And even with that, using the love technique, remember, anytime we institute a new behavior in our relationship, it's likely that our partner's not going to trust it.
She's going to be like,
and it can cause anxiety. So don't expect, it could work out well the first time, but don't expect that the first time you try something that your partner's going to react to it the way that you expect them to react to it, because it will be something new and that can cause anxiety. And fear.
Chances are, if you implement this, she may not tell you, but she's gonna call her like, girl, he did this now, what the hell? Right? And she's not gonna trust it. But you got to stay consistent with it, right? Because again, you're doing something that she's not accustomed to. When she's up, she's expecting you to either or
the typical
give it
reaction.
back to her, because the thing is, if she stayed with her, however long, I'm assuming you guys have been with each other for a week, right? If you guys have been with each other 6 months or longer, I'm assuming this is a behavior she's already seen before. So she kind of knows you. So if this is out of your norm and you're not giving her you're not coming down to, this is, women, don't be mad at me, right? Again, men, we like to call ourselves leaders and this, that, and the other, right? You'll hear men say, man, never argue with a woman, right? Things like that, right? Okay, right?
Oh dear.
In an extent, have a healthy discussion, right? So if she starts raising her voice, I mean, if you want to, it's kind of like in the jungle, you always see female lions beating up male lions, whatever. If he wants to, he can, but it's like, he knows, right? So you can roar louder than her, but you doing that does what exactly? Does it solve the issue, or do you want her to be scared of you? Because that's not good either. You want having respect for someone and being scared of them, two very different things.
Yeah, and I'll also say here that when it comes to instituting the new behaviors, like let's say like a new conflict resolution technique in your relationship, it's also helpful to let your partner know you're going to be doing that before you have a fight, before you get into an argument. Because then they know
manipulation.
What do you mean?
No, what I'm saying is if you don't let your partner know, you can kind of do that, as that can also be used as it can be weaponized as well. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
It can be weaponized, but I'm just saying that if you let your partner know in advance before you get into a fight that you have that you're learning how to resolve conflicts more effectively in your relationship, then she or he knows that the next time you get into a fight, if they see a new behavior, it can temper a little bit of that anxiety for your partner. Is what I'm saying. Not that it's going to solve it, but they know to expect it.
Yeah, where I was going with that is this, right? So a lot of times, because I'm guilty of it, and I've seen other guys guilty of it. They're looking for other guys guilty of it, and they're looking for tips, right? And tips to get somewhere or get an upper hand, or again, which in my opinion is not necessarily about solving something. It's about manipulating the situation.
Yeah.
And so, I'm gonna hit it with the love technique. And then she's going to be like, whoa. And then she's going to see me this way. Don't approach it that way. Don't do that. Don't. You want peace, right? That's what men say. You want peace. This is a tool to help you get peace. And you want her to know what that is, because she is going, again, you as wanting to be the leader or the head of your household, she is going to see that example and want to emulate that and follow that example as well, which then keeps the peace.
But right? What she got to do though? What about her? What does she need to do? What are women wrong for? What do the women do? What do the women do? What do the women do?
Yeah.
It's like some men should just wear a shirt that says, "But what about the women?" and call it a day and be done with it. Like, and just be done with it.
What about them? Yeah. So again, and it's not again. I know it's going to seem like we're saying women don't do anything wrong or they're perfect. Yes. No, it's if you want, like, leaders have a lot of responsibility. Like, owners of men like to say, "Oh, I'm a CEO and I want women to comply and cooperate." All right, cool. If the company does bad, which is the relationship, you know who gets blamed for it? Not the person, who cleans the bathrooms or whatever in the company. The CEO does. So you have to take the lead and take the, head and figure that out. And or not, I don't know, whatever, right? So anyway, so again, maximizer, minimizer. That's what I was saying. The sad part about those dynamics is that it's kind of like with us, we both wanted the same thing.
Yeah, and couples usually do. They just don't know how to fix it.
You're going about it from different directions. It's kind of like, for example, a popular argument. Couples are driving. They're going somewhere. Oh, take this exit. No, I know a different way. And they'll start, because again, another power dynamic. No, this way is shorter. You remember The Incredibles, I think, had a scene like that, right? Right? And Incredibles is a Disney cartoon, right? Great movie. Anyway, so they'll be arguing about which exit to take or the fastest route, or take this, you're going to avoid traffic, take this. And it's like, then they'll argue for that because let's say the guy doesn't listen or the girl doesn't listen or whatever. Or he listens to her and they go the wrong way, or it takes longer, or she listens to him, whatever, right? Then they start fighting about that.
Yeah, here's a nice power dynamic one that we had in the past, which was always a lot of fun. Because and this plays into men. If you call yourself the leader of your family, that also includes recognizing and honoring your wife's strengths as well. Not expecting that you have strengths that she doesn't have, but you have all the strengths that she has. That's weird, right? But so in terms of the driving example that you were giving, one that we would have often was that, because I'm very good with time management, I can time things like to the minute almost, right? So, and I would tell you, hey, if you were going somewhere, you had to be somewhere at a certain time. I'd be like, hey, babe, you should leave at this time because for you to get there on time. And you would literally not leave at the time that I told you to leave, and then you would speed just to prove that you could make it there at that time. And I would be like, babe, I know you can speed to make it there at that time. The time that I'm saying might be better for you to leave is so that you don't speed, so that you don't get pulled over and you don't get a ticket, which will definitely make you late to where you are going. So it's like, that's one of those power dynamics where I have nothing to gain or lose by you being on time wherever you're going. It's just, I'm like, hey, babe, this is just something that I'm good at. But,
and being able to accept that. Yeah.
And being able to accept that.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And so, so like I said, you both want the exact same thing. You're just going about it in different ways. And so fellas, I'm going to talk to them because I think, we should lead, right? not control.
Yes.
Lead.
Oh
it's
my
very
goodness.
Right. Once you see her in that emotional state, you know what? I'm gonna use something my therapist told me. Right. When you see her in that emotional state, see a little girl and her being very scared. If you see that, you're gonna be, oh, so now I got her, but she's an adult. I understand. I got it. Right?
Oh, dear.
See a little girl that's scared and she's telling you what she's scared about, right? Listen to her. And when she's done, what would, if let's say, imagine, I'm not telling you she's the same thing, but if that was a random little girl talking to you, how would you treat that situation? Would you tell her, well, you're being too sensitive, or well,
you know what's interesting about that? Sadly, and I again, I can't speak for other communities, but sadly, in our community, we do that to children as well. When children are emoting and they're sharing how they're feeling and why they're feeling it, we tell them things like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. So even with children, we do this. So that technique actually is really good when we, recognize that we're reacting from our little self. It is very helpful for us personally to learn to regulate ourselves and self-soothe, as well as recognize, our partner's tender wounds as well. But unfortunately, in our community, we have not, many have, I'm not talking about all people, but many have not yet learned how to honor their children's feelings. They usually try and just brush them out of it or try and punish them out of it. It's just not good.
It's sad. But so again, if you see her as, just see her like she's scared, she's worried. Just think of whatever she's scared or worried about didn't just develop yesterday or the same day. That was when she was, before she even knew you. And so care for her, right? And
be the protector.
Be the protector.
You call yourself the protector. You call yourself the protector. But why I gotta be the one? Well, because you call yourself the protector. Protector doesn't just mean if there's a bump in the night, you're gonna go to the door and punch somebody in the head or pull out. That's not what it means. Most of the protection that your partner needs from you is emotional protection, psychological protection. She needs safety, right? You're calling yourself the protector, but you keep saying, "But what about her?" It doesn't make any sense.
I would definitely agree with that as well. It's, again, and by the way, these are things I had to learn.
We all have to learn them.
I'm not sitting here on my high horse like, oh, I knew it. No.
Yeah, we all have to learn them. Yeah.
And so if you see it that way, and you'll understand that her getting loud or her whatever, it's just her process. That's not good. She's still, again, does she need to take accountability and change that behavior? 100%. Yes, she needs to take accountability and change the behavior. Yes, she needs to take accountability and change that behavior, right? So, with that said, while she's twisting her neck and saying whatever, right? She's done, like I said, love, listen, understand, validate her, right? And afterwards, let's do this analogy. What do Black people say typically that they dislike about when cops come to a situation that's, domestic or whatever? Cops are supposed to come and diffuse a situation. They're supposed to disarm a situation. And de-escalate a situation, right? So think of it that way, right? So we're what do you call it? What do you call it? Citizens? Civilians, We're civilians. They're not, because there's an oath they took and a job they have to protect us. We are saying that we're their protector, right? And so when she's like, whatever she's doing, right? No, not all women sound like that. So, okay, whatever, right? Okay, and receive that and understand that. Try your best to disarm and de-escalate her and let's
make her feel safe,
and then go from there. And then the other way around, right? Women.
And can I say something here?
Sure.
The shutting down and being passive, I would ask every man, because they were just so mad at me, right? I would ask every man, when has ignoring a bully ever made the bully stop or go away? When? But yet you're instituting that in your relationship. You're saying that the way that I'm going to get this to stop is by ignoring it, is by being passive, is by pretending it's not there. How's that going to, but how is that? Is that going to work? It's not going to work, right? It's not going to work because when you're, and yes, women can use emotions to manipulate. I'm not going to say they don't. Like, come on, of course they can. But it's knowing how to handle it well that a lot of men don't know how to. Because I had one guy and I felt so bad for him. He was like, that left a comment on the video. He was like, it's, we should speak up and we should say what's bothering us. But what happens a lot is that once we say something is bothering us, then she starts crying. Now you are consoling her for something she did wrong. And I wanted to share with him that that's emotional manipulation. It is. That's what it is. You
are consoling her for something she did wrong.
Correct.
That's wild.
Yeah. It does happen. I don't want to make it seem like only women do that, because there are men and women that institute that behavior. They know they did something wrong. So instead of just saying that they did something wrong, they'll start crying or, start sulking.
Or the other way around, the gaslighting.
Yeah, the gaslighting.
Look what you made me do.
Yeah, all of that. And then the partner that didn't do anything wrong ends up consoling the partner that did do something wrong. It's very toxic.
Yeah.
And it is emotional manipulation. Yeah. But men can't learn to recognize emotional manipulation from real, true, genuine, authentic emotions until they do the work that they have to do to learn how to identify that. Yeah. But they're refusing to learn how to identify that.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And again, like I was wrapping up with the women, it's like, so if you're dealing with a guy and you have something going on, and let's say he is quiet and shuts down, is like, you know what, I'll be back. Right? What's going to happen is typically she's going to feel like he's abandoning her, and which is her wound as a child, right? But he doesn't want to deal with all the, commotion.
Yeah, which is why when he tells her, the way to calm that anxiety in her and to not turn it into a power struggle, power battle, is for him to say, I need a moment. I'm going to step out. I'll be back in an hour. I need to think. I need to process. I'll be back in an hour.
Right.
And as long as he makes sure that he's back in an hour, and I'm not saying on the dot, that's not what I mean. Then that helps her to settle that anxiety that she's feeling. Yeah.
What I was saying I was just telling, I was just telling men how to show up in a situation where she's being the hailstorm or she's being the maximizer.
Yeah.
And the other way around, I was telling, women how to show up when he's being the turtle and he's being protective and secludes himself and the minimizer. Right. And what that person needs is space. What that person needs is time alone
to process.
And that's something I had to learn with you. Right. Because I'm like, we need to solve this now. And it's like, if she steps, give her space. It's not personal.
It's not personal.
Her younger self, she had a lot of self-soothing to do. She had to take care of herself a lot. And that's how she gets herself to feel better.
Yeah.
When she's done soothing herself, she's going to come back and we're going to, this is my 1 second.
Sorry, honey. Go ahead.
My wound or my trauma is abandonment.
Yeah.
So I'm already the hailstorm, right? I'm already the maximizer. You're the turtle. You're the shell. You are going away. I am being abandoned. Yeah. Which now I'm like, don't abandon me.
Yeah.
And then which makes you go into your shell even more.
Yeah. And then it just keeps going and going and going.
And so that's kind of like, women, again, because then 80% of women are the maximizers, 80% of men are the minimizers. Yeah. So women, when you're dealing with a minimizer guy, you have to let him breathe. Yeah. You have to let him take his time.
And let me say something.
It's not personal. He's going to come back and then, whatever.
It's definitely not personal. And I want to say that his part, though, when she does give him the space, is twofold. Like the one thing that we said where I'll be back in an hour or I'll be back in 2 hours and we'll circle back to this conversation. But not only that, but that he remembers to do that and doesn't wait for her to come to him. Yeah. So he needs to honor that when she is able to self-soothe herself and calm her anxiety down and give him that space, that he does keep his word and come back in an hour, come back in 2 hours and go to her and say, hey, babe, let's talk about what we were talking about earlier. It's important that he does that.
Yeah, 100%. So it is important that he speaks. So another thing.
Let me say something real quick here. Sorry, honey.
Sure.
But that even though about 80% of the time, the man is going to show up as the minimizer in his relationship and the woman is going to show up as the maximizer. There is still a 20% of the time where the couple reverses roles, where she shows up as the minimizer and he shows up as the maximizer. So I want to make sure that I say that because it's not 100% of the time. There is still going to be about a 20% of the time where he's the more emotionally reactive one and where she's the one that's shutting down.
But I'm even going to take it a step further. I'm going to theorize that if a maximizer ends up being a minimizer, like I said, if she stops talking, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
If a dude who minimizes and needs a space isn't, what happens when you corner an animal? They lash out and they explode. They go to 10 because they're not comfortable being in that realm.
Yeah.
And so when they go to that 20%, it's usually never a good thing. It's usually bad.
Yeah.
It's usually like 10 on both ends. But
and I will also say this too, because a lot of men will say things like, well, what does she need to do? Right. One of the most effective ways that we get people to change behavior is by changing our own behavior. Because when we institute a new behavior, that other person is going to eventually adapt to that new behavior. It's not one of the worst ways to get people to change behavior is to tell them to change a behavior. That's one of the worst ways. You can, it ain't gonna work, right?
Show you.
It's not gonna work. But if we change our own behavior, then that other person usually will adapt and change their behavior as well.
Yeah.
Unless they have some sort of issue going on that's beyond their own control.
It's like Jesus said about worrying about the log in, somebody else's eye. Yours is way bigger. What are you talking about? Worrying about this little prick, but look at you. So anyway, segueing one more thing. So mind reading is another big one. Yeah, so I remember I was having a discussion with one of my friends who was saying how we were saying, oh, are you okay with your wife dancing with other people? Like, at a party or whatever it is, right? And his response was, if I have to tell her, she should know me by now. If I have to discuss that with her, then she doesn't really know me like that.
He doesn't want to set the boundary.
He doesn't want to set the boundary.
He doesn't want to be vulnerable.
And the same thing is kind of like with women going silent treatment or, oh, what's wrong? Nothing, right? It's like, okay. So if there's something really wrong and you say nothing, which is honestly a manipulative behavior.
Yeah.
Because something is wrong and he knows when you banging the dishes loud and putting the dishes away hard or stomping, he knows something is bothering you and you're going to retain power by not telling him and keeping him on his toes.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, right? It's a behavior. And so versus telling him what's wrong. So again, mind reading and expecting people to know things and so on and so forth leads to a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the worst ones in relationships.
Yeah.
Just because your partner loves you and knows you well doesn't mean they can read their mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes ourselves, we don't know what we need in a moment. But we expect for our partners to know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you don't set boundaries in your relationship, expect them to be broken or violated because they don't even know they exist. Yeah. So it's like, for example, oh, how you dress was really disrespectful, right?
But you shouldn't say it like that.
Listen, we're going to be realistic, right? How you dressing right now is real disrespectful to me. I don't really appreciate. No, you're not going to say that. It's real disrespectful, right? So you got me looking crazy out here, right? Yeah. And of course, she's going to, who are you talking to? Now we'll dance, and of course, we're fighting now, right? Now, with all due respect, when you approached her, was she dressing that way? You know what I mean? You have to ask yourself that. Like now, did you meet her dressed like a nun? And then as soon as you start, moved in together or started dating, she just went on a complete shopping spree and wanted to like just completely like dress a certain way specifically without you there.
Yeah. Which reminds me, like, this one of the things that we always tell men when they're dating, like, meet her in a place that you don't mind her frequenting after you marry her.
Yeah.
Like if you're meeting her in places that you don't want her to go after you marry her, that's weird. You met her there.
Yeah.
So that if you meet her there, she likes doing that thing, and then you're expecting that when she marries you, she no longer likes doing that thing anymore. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's like I tell a lot of guys like, oh, what's the secret? It's like, okay, well, first and foremost, you're looking for women at the club. You're looking for women at the bar.
Yeah, but not that there's anything like going and having fun is one thing. It's just more so if she does that for fun, you can't expect her to not want to do that for fun anymore after you marry her.
Yeah,
you know,
because again, like I'm talking about men who think conservative in that way. Yeah, right. You know, now you meet her at the grocery store or at Starbucks or reading a book or at I don't know, Barnes and Noble or something like that. It's a little different because now if you met her there, there's a chance she's going to go there again. So, you know, we just kind of segued into something else, but more, it was random. Yeah, it was random. But if you met her there, that means she's going to go there again or expect her to go there again. And if you don't want her to go there again, that has to be a boundary you set, but it's kind of like a weird boundary because you saw her there. But
but it's not that doesn't mean that if you meet her at Barnes and Nobles that on Saturday she doesn't go out with her girlfriends and go to a club. That's not what it means at all. What it means is that when you go to her and you share with her that might make you uncomfortable, she's not confused by it, is what I'm saying. Because you didn't meet her there. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So mind reading. A lot of couples expect others to do it. Yeah. She can't know what's in your head and vice versa. He can't know what's in your head. You're mad at something that he did. Yeah. Maybe some half naked woman was walking across the street and he noticed her or whatever, and it pisses you off. But it was like a fleeting thing, 1 second in his mind. He doesn't remember it. But you're pissed. He doesn't know why. You guys are having a great time. You went on a date. You went this. You went that. He's like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And he's like, yeah, I saw you looking at that woman and everything. He's going to be like, oh.
He's not going to be like, oh, whatever. He's going to gaslight her and say he didn't do it. Okay. But I that's what he's going to do. He's going to act like she doesn't have eyes and she didn't notice it. That's what's going to happen.
What if he wasn't looking at her?
Yeah. Okay. Listen, it is possible that he wasn't. No, that is possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure.
Taking accountability.
Okay.
But your assumptions are incorrect.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Not always. Sometimes.
That goes for Ben too?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right.
What do you mean?
Why are you wearing that dress for? Who are you trying to impress?
What?
Is he are his assumptions accurate most of the time there too?
I said sometimes his assumptions are correct. Is that one of them that his assumption is correct? When she's wearing a particular dress?
I mean, I'm not going with you. Why?
She's definitely trying to impress someone, and one of that someone will be herself. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying it is.
Well, she can wear it in the mirror and be like, wow, I'm a baddie. Take a picture and save it. Boom, done. Take it off.
What?
That's it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see I'm very controlling.
Okay.
These comments about the toxic I am.
The funny thing about the mind reading is that men can easily see why women expecting them to read their minds is toxic, right? Mm-hmm. Easy. But a lot of men don't recognize how much they expect their partners to read their minds.
Yes.
Which is interesting because they also will say, never open up to a woman. So if you're not opening up to her, but you still have expectations in your relationship, doesn't that mean that you expect her to read your mind? I'm a little confused about that. No? I don't know.
You're expecting her to read your mind.
You're expecting her to read your mind.
Never tell a woman how you feel.
Never tell a woman open up. Never tell them anything. Open up to a woman. So if you never tell them anything, but you still have expectations, you're expecting her to read your mind.
Never cry in front of a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never be human in front of a woman.
Yes. It's like I was watching this podcast the other day. It was actually really good with the guest was Amanda Seals, but on that episode, one of the hosts, the female host, they were talking about how men don't open up and don't cry and whatever, and that the female host was like, you know, you have tear ducts, right? Like
she said, bro.
Yeah, she's like, you have tear ducts, my guy. You know that, right? It's almost like they forget that they have tear ducts, like they're there for a reason.
And again. If, men don't want to get embarrassed, if she clowns you for showing your emotion, crying, she's not the one.
That's her toxicity.
That's okay.
Yeah.
She's hot.
And that's something that I heard a lot too. A lot of the comments in that video, a lot of men were saying, but what if she doesn't like it? Or what if this? And I'm like, you don't abandon yourself simply because somebody else doesn't like something.
Men are taught to value themselves. They're taught to value not women, but how women can make them feel, or the sexual organs of women, right? And that, like in that same podcast, remember she said something like, men love vagina, but they hate women. Yeah. I was just like, damn, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, so societal conditioning.
Okay.
We're conditioned to not show our emotions. We're conditioned to, you know, stoic. You know, man, you emotional like a female. Like, yo, you want to fight? Hell yeah, I want to fight. That's not emotional. You know, being so mad and angry and upset or sad that you want to physically harm someone is not an emotional reaction. For crying is.
It's so interesting too, though, because in our culture, whenever we talk about being emotional, we say women are more emotional. We're only talking about negative emotions, because I'm sure men will say they feel happy, they feel excited, they feel surprised, you know. Yeah, like these. I don't know if horny is an emotion, is it?
Isn't it? It's a it's a feeling. I'm sorry, I'm confusing emotion with feelings, I think.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
I feel like I want to look that up.
Okay, but I don't know. But what I'm saying is that men will say they feel happy and they can react in a happy way or in an excited way. Those are feelings too. So you're still being emotional even when you're sharing good feelings.
Horny is a closely related, but a more detached way of describing sexual arousal.
But that's not a feeling.
Yes, horniness is an emotion.
How does it describe it?
I don't know. I'm not arguing with Google.
You're not arguing with Google? What's your source?
Hey.
Well, what was the source?
I don't know. I'm not arguing with Google. You go ahead and...
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'll add horny onto our emotional wheel of emotions that we give to our clients.
I'm happy with specifically. Yeah. Horny. Okay. Anyway, so yeah. So again, I've been seeing a lot of things lately about, you know, men and their emotions not being validated or seen and understood, and
how can they be validated if they're not shared? Do you understand how confusing that is?
Talking about societal conditioning.
Okay.
We are conditioned not to have emotions.
So then how do you have the complaint that they're not being validated? That's what I'm asking. If you're conditioned to not show them.
There's James Bond sitting there talking about his emotions to me. No.
Okay.
But he got all the women.
Okay.
He had bread. He always kicked ass. And he always won.
Okay.
Right? You know, I don't... It's like that's what you're not supposed to, you know, oh my God. Well, you're not supposed to say it that way either, but you know, I feel like this. Like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
I understand.
And that's how society.
But I understand your James Bond example, and I haven't seen many of those movies. I only see maybe 2 or 3. But in how many of them is James Bond complaining about his feelings not being validated?
He doesn't complain about his feelings not being validated.
Right. So that's what I'm asking for men. That's what I'm
shooting people. But that's what
I'm asking men. That's what I'm asking. No, but hold on. That's what I'm asking men. They're complaining that women don't validate their feelings. Women don't listen to their feelings. But they're also saying they were conditioned to not show their feelings.
Right.
Or to not talk about their feelings.
Right.
How can someone validate or affirm something you're not sharing?
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
Well, yeah. Well, if women were to not call us, you know, names for sharing our feelings, and if women learn how to be better at, you know, handling our feelings and not calling us whatever name for doing it, then maybe we'd feel more. And if women would stop crying when that's what it is. Yeah,
no, men emasculate each other way more than women emasculate men, by far. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys can try and put it on us, but it's women that are saying, hey, we learn how to share your feelings. And when women tell men, hey, learn how to share your feelings, even if it's a professional, men they'll fight them. Yeah. No, you're right. Well, at the same time, say women don't listen to your feelings.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah. I remember I was in this other chat when somebody was saying about unwritten rules.
Yeah.
About how men are supposed to act. I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
What's unwritten? Okay, who unwrote it? Where did it come from? I don't know. The ether. Okay. Who are you downloading this from? And of course, not going to answer. Right. And like, well, where do you get this? I was like, well, I try to follow the Bible. God he's a jealous God. He has very different emotions, and don't do this. If not, I'm going to be mad. And if I get mad at you, I will destroy you. And this, that, the other. Don't put any wheat in any of my bread. Didn't again, it was a very, God is emotional, right? Yeah. And so my creator can be emotional, but I can't. Maybe we should think of it that way. Maybe you should think of it that way. I think we should end on that note. What do you think?
I'm cool with it.
Cool with it? Okay, well.
Yes.
And thank you for watching another episode of the Couples Development Podcast. Please leave a like and comment at the bottom. We'd like to hear from you. We're also looking to do some live shows soon where you can get some callers in. We can have like a different men chime in and state how they feel, and women as well too. We're all about bringing couples together and keeping couples together, and
in a healthy and happy and satisfying and fulfilling way, not just keeping them together.
Yes. Don't stick through. All right. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us this week. Let us know what else you'd like for us to talk about. See you next time.
Understanding relationship conflict. There are two primary ways we react when we are in a fight with our partners. The maximizer, also called the hailstorm, and the minimizer, also called the turtle. The maximizer is emotionally reactive and sometimes explosive. The maximizer wants to fight it out now, and they push for immediate solutions to conflict. They become anxious if they perceive their partner as avoiding or neglecting issues. The minimizer prefers to take time to think things over before discussing or addressing issues. The minimizer often dismisses issues as not that big of a deal. They might become defensive when pressed to open up about feelings. They can become overwhelmed by highly emotional situations and may seek to leave or change the topic of conversation. In relationships, until we heal and learn a healthier way to respond, we all play either the maximizer during conflict or the minimizer. Statistically, men tend to take on the role of the minimizer, and women tend to take on the role of maximizer. About 20% of the time, partners switch roles, with the maximizer playing minimizer and the minimizer playing maximizer. It's important to note that neither of these reactions is better than the other. Both the maximizer, the hailstorm, and the minimizer, the turtle, are unhealthy, emotionally immature reactions to conflict. It's also important to note that both the maximizer and the minimizer have the same goal, and that goal is to protect the relationship. The maximizer believes that through emotional expressivity, the couple will get closer, thereby saving the relationship. And the minimizer believes that shutting down emotionally is the way to protect the relationship, so that neither partner says things they can't take back, and causing further damage to the relationship. And here's the hardest part. The maximizer's pursuit of emotional engagement can cause the minimizer to withdraw further, while the minimizer's withdrawal can trigger more intense emotional reactions in the maximizer. This dynamic can lead to a cycle of frustration and dissatisfaction. Recognizing and understanding these patterns is a step toward healthier communication and a more balanced relationship. How to break the cycle. Renowned psychotherapist Viktor Frankl says it best. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies our freedom and power to choose our responses. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and your relationship is mastering how to take advantage of the space, the pause, between stimulus, the trigger, and the response, your usual reaction. The maximizer-minimizer dynamic is controlled by the unconscious animalistic mind. Pausing and taking a few deep breaths allows our higher mind, our conscious mind, to take over, thereby allowing us to choose a healthier response. Healing and growth require humility, because humility allows us to radically accept that there's a possibility that we learned unhealthy behavioral patterns from our families of origin.